Welcome back, guys. Today is going to continue our NFL predictions with the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers, they're always either one or two teams and never in between. They're either going to be the best of the best, going to Super Bowls, going to NFC championships, or they get injured as all hell and it derails their whole season. And the latter was what happened to them last year. But fortunately, looking at their 2025 schedule, they have one of the easiest. But the window of opportunity is closing and closing fast. They definitely need to capitalize on this season, or else they might have to break up the band. And looking at their schedule from last year, again, things didn't get off to the best of starts, but the Niners they had opportunities to turn things around. Like they got an opening day win against the Jets, but had to wait all the way to week 4 to get a win against the Patriots. But then in exchange, loss, win, loss, win. But I did get technically got consecutive wins against the Dallas Cowboys. And then they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road. But after that, things just snowballed from there. Losing to the Seahawks, losing to the Green Bay Packers because Brock Purdy was out. Then they lost to the Bills. Then they beat the Bears, but after that, they just they lost and then they lost out. They came in last in their division. At least with the Niners, when they know they're hurt, they'll just call this year a bust and move on. Unlike some other teams where things aren't going bad, they'll still try to rip off wins for pride. All right, 49ers, let's take a look at the schedule, and I'm actually very high on you guys this year. So, kicking things off, I got them going on the road, getting a win against Seattle. This is a new Seattle team. Week 2 against the Saints, I already did Saints predictions, and I had them winning that. Week 3 against the Cardinals, I think they get their revenge on them. Week 4 against the Jaguars, I think they get a win there. But against the Rams, I think this is where they get their first loss of the season. In week 6 against the Bucks, this one's also a toss-up. I could see the 49ers winning this one, but I'm actually going to give this one to the Bucks. Week 7 against the Falcons, I'll say they bounce back there. Week 8 against the Texans, I do think the Texans are going to be still one of the best in the league, but give me the Niners on the road to get a win there. And against the Giants, I mean, the results should not shock you there. And against the Rams, a second time, week 10, I have them splitting with the Rams. I also have them splitting with the Cardinals. Because remember, the Cardinals swept them last year. But on Monday night against the Panthers, that should be a bloodbath. Then they have week 13 in Cleveland, which, if I remember 2 years ago, 49ers lost to the Browns early in that season, in that 2023 season. Do I think the same's going to happen? Only because the Browns have a lot of unknown for me. I got to go with the Niners in this one. With a week 14 bye. And by this point, the Niners may have a few injuries, but I think they could use a late bye among other than any other team. In the rest of the schedule, week 15 against the Titans, that's a win. Week 16 against the Colts, that's a Monday night game for some reason. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Seattle Seahawks. And for me, the Seahawks were my sleeper team of last year, and they nearly pulled off my expectations of them. They went 10-7 under a new head coach in Mike Macdonald. However, but 10-7 was not enough for them to make the postseason. And let me just say, losing to the Giants at home week 5, that had a lot to do with why they didn't make the playoffs. But 10-7 under a first year coach, not bad. Too bad they kind of broke up the band this year with Geno Smith going to the Raiders, DK going to the Steelers, and Tyler Lockett going to the Titans, I believe. So this is going to look like a semi-new Seattle Seahawks team heading into 2025. I'm not sure if I'm ready to call them a sleeper though. And looking at their schedule, they went 10-7, started off the season 3-0, which is for me very very. I mean, just nothing to sneeze at. But they lost three straight afterwards. Okay, losing to Detroit and the 49ers was one thing, but losing to the Giants again week 5, yeah, that's not going to cut it. We also lost to the Bills and Rams. So basically, to sum up Seattle, the games that Seattle was expecting to lose, they lost. They pretty much won most of their expected wins, and they were surprisingly good in the division, going 4-2 in there, 4-2 in that area. That's pretty impressive. So, what does 2025 Seattle Seahawks team will have with Sam Darnold leaving the helm? Let's take a look. All right, Seattle, let's take a look at your schedule. In week 1, you got the 49ers at home, but the 49ers have been kind of friendly whenever they go to CenturyLink. Try saying that about a decade ago. But I'm going to go with the 49ers to win the road win here. And week 2 against the Steelers, how about this? 0-2 to start the season. But against the New Orleans Saints, I got them winning there. Week 4 against the Arizona Cardinals, I got them losing here again. Week 5, that's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, the Bucks, they're going to be one of the better teams in the league. Give me the Bucks to win. But I think Seattle could get the road win over Jacksonville. The week 7 against the Texans. And while I actually am more higher on the Texans than you think, I still got to go with the Seattle Seahawks to win at home. And at their bye week, they're pretty much, I think, 3-4 at this point. So moving on, we got the Washington Commanders Sunday night football. I got the Commanders winning that. But I do got Seattle splitting the series with the Arizona Cardinals. Week 11 will be the start of the Rams series, and those games can go in any direction, but this is a home one. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Rams to win. In week 12 against the Titans, I surprisingly gave them a loss there. Week 13 against the Vikings. This one's interesting. A lot of headlines in this one. Sam Darnold will be taking on the team that he took to the playoffs last year. And in this one, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and take... And also, the Vikings have a lot of unknowns, too. Because we don't know how J.J. McCarthy's going to be like. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Seattle Seahawks to win that one. Let me give them a loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Against the Indianapolis Colts, I'm not high on the Colts at all. So give me Seattle to win at home. I have them splitting the series with the Rams. I'm going to give them a possible Saturday night game loss to the Panthers before they're going to get swept by the 49ers, which gives them a record of 7-10. Rebuilding, which is a down cry of what 10-7 was last year. But again, I feel like Seattle is kind of they're kind of in rebuilding mode. They're kind of not in rebuilding mode. But whatever. I'm going to go 7-10. I think that's a pretty decent yet disappointing record for Seattle heading into 2025. And that concludes their predictions. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely. And I'll see you next time. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Los Angeles Rams. Rams quietly won the NFC West, and it was another great year for the Rams until they gave up 200 yards to Saquon Barkley twice. But I do like the youth on their defense 1 year removed from Aaron Donald. And the Rams could still be the Rams, but Stafford's aging. Devontae Adams, he's here, but you already know he's aging. And Sean McVay has pretty much had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Can the Rams make another run? I think they can, but it's going to be much tougher than you think. And looking at their schedule from last year, did not start off the season great. 1-4 to start the season. Some of it was injuries. Some of it was, well, not playing up to their billing. But after their bye week, they turned it around. Outside of losing to the Miami Dolphins and Philadelphia Eagles, they pretty much won out. And that included a very impressive game against the Buffalo Bills, where Puka Nacua went crazy that game. They swept the 49ers, and they won a huge late season game against the Cardinals, which essentially won them the division. And yeah, a 10-7 season, which looked like, I felt like the Rams looked way better than what that record indicated. And they won their wild card game, which was very odd because the wild card game did not take place in Los Angeles. If you remember, Los Angeles had a big wildfire outbreak, and I hope that city is still doing well. But they had to move that game to Arizona, and they ended up winning that game, which means they beat the Minnesota Vikings twice. However, they could not beat the Philadelphia Eagles, despite having an opportune chance to do it, even in the snow. They just could not stop Saquon Barkley that day. And hopefully that might be their main goal heading into 2025. I know they got an early season matchup with them. They pretty much going all in on stopping Saquon Barkley for that game. But before we get to that, we got to talk about, well, we will talk about that game. We're going to talk about all the others. So let's take a look. Okay, Rams, let's take a look at the schedule you got. And we're going to start off with the Houston Texans. This game is going to be a great test to see where both teams are at. I feel like both teams are going to be pretty good, but how good is going to be determined. But I think because this one is going to be at home for the Rams, I'm going to go ahead and give them a win here. Then I got 2 road games against the Titans and Eagles. I have them winning on the road against the Titans. And surprisingly, winning on the road against the Eagles because the Rams have been circling this game on their calendar since losing to them in the divisional round. Week 4, I'm going to give them a win over the Indianapolis Colts because, again, I'm not high on the Colts this year. Week 5 against the 49ers. How about a win there? So they're going to start the season off with a 5-0 start. But I have them losing to the Ravens. Ravens probably be where their first loss is going to happen. In week 7 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think the Jags going to be okay at best. I think they're going to be okay to mediocre. I think the Rams are a little better than them this year. So heading their bye week, just 1 loss, that's great for them. Now, for the gauntlet of their schedule. Saints, well, I'm got them winning that. I don't see the 49ers getting swept by the Rams this year. I have them getting 3 wins in a row against the Seahawks, Bucks, and Panthers, with the last one being on the road. I have them losing to the Cardinals week 14. Week 15, I have them losing at home to the Detroit Lions. Week 16, I have them losing to Seattle on the road, losing to the Falcons on the road, before closing their season with the Cardinal win week 18, and that puts their record also at 11-6, which should be enough for them to make the playoffs as a wild card team. And for me, I think this might be one of the Rams' last good years that they could have because, again, the core is getting older. But anyway, tell what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely. I'll see you next time. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Arizona Cardinals. And this has been a kind of a quiet year for the Cardinals, but in all, it was a good one, all things considered. They improved from 4-13 to 8-9, swept the 49ers, and the team started showing an identity. But I don't know, I felt like the Cardinals was just there. It were it was nice to see them do well, but I felt like they did not have enough. And this year, the Cardinals want to see if they could challenge a playoff spot and I think in an NFC, which I think is going to be more top heavy than you think. And looking at their schedule from last year, it was kind of all over the place. They did won a week 2 game against the Rams. They won a huge week 5 game against the 49ers. Remember, they swept them this year. And after losing to Green Bay, they had a 4-game winning streak where they beat the Chargers, Dolphins, Bears, and Jets. But after that bye week, felt like this is when things started to fall apart. The clock struck 12 on this team. Got swept by the Seattle Seahawks, lost to the Minnesota Vikings. Then they lost a game that they really needed at the Carolina Panthers. Lost to them in overtime. And then lost to the Rams on a Saturday, which essentially eliminated them for the postseason. And what I thought about Marvin Harrison's rookie season, it wasn't terrible, but it was not memorable. People know he could get a little better than what he got. I'm just going to leave it at that for him. So for the Cardinals, can they make a move and push for the playoffs, or they'll be stuck in neutral? Let's take a look. Okay, Cardinals, let's take a look at your little schedule. And you starting your game season off against the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints will be one of the worst teams in the league this year. I have them winning their first game on the road. Week 2, their first home game is against the Carolina Panthers. I have them winning that one, but very, very cautiously. Week 3, I have where their first loss is going to come. I have them losing to the 49ers. Week 4 against the Seattle Seahawks and Week 5 against the Titans. Both results in wins. Week 6 against the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not high on as you know, I'm not high on the Indianapolis Colts this year. I'm giving them the road win. And I have them getting a surprise win over the Green Bay Packers. Put them at 6-1 to start the season. Now it's week 9. Coming off a mini bye, they have a Monday night game against the Dallas Cowboys. And the one thing I know about the Cardinals is, regardless, I don't care how bad their roster is, they'll always find a way to beat the Cowboys. They'll get a win here. I have them losing to the Seattle Seahawks, beating the 49ers, splitting with them at that. Week 12 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm going to give them a win there. Week 13 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I have them losing on the road for that one. Week 14 against the Rams. Usually December is when the Cardinals start to fall off a bit. So for this game, I have them. I'm going to go ahead and give them a win here for now. Against the Texans, I'm going to go ahead and give them a loss for the Texans. Week 16, I have them beating the Atlanta Falcons. Week 17 against the Bengals, I'm going to go ahead and give them a loss there. And Week 18 against the Rams, I got them at the Rams splitting with them, which gets their record to 11-6. They could possibly be a surprise team in the playoffs. And they might end up being my surprise dark horse team heading into 2025. But anyway, tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely. I'll see you next time.